Hello friends, welcome again to the channel. This is the second video of literary terms. You can watch the first video from the link given in the description. What is juxtaposition? Juxtaposition means contrast or comparison. Juxtaposition is the putting of two different things or ideas close together. There are several types of juxtaposition including oxymoron, antithesis and foil. For example, Charles Dickens wrote, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times." Here, the two words, best and worst, has been put together to show the contrast of time. Who are called Lake Poets. Lake Poets are a group of English poets who lived and wrote in the Lake District of England in the 19th century. Lake School, or Lake Poets, refers to William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge and Robert Southey. What is lyric poem? Lyric poem is a type of poetry which expresses personal emotions or feelings typically spoken in the first person. For example, sonnet, tanka, ode and elegy. Common characteristics of lyric poetry includes the use of figurative language, such as metaphors and similes and intense descriptions of emotions, experiences, observations, etc. What is melodrama? Melodrama is a story, play or film in which the characters show stronger emotions than real people usually do. मेलोड्रामा एक तरह के नाटक है जहां इमोशंस को कैरेक्टर्स के जरिए ज़्यादा बढ़ा चढ़ाकर दिखाया जाता है जो रियलिटी में नहीं होते. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, Pygmalion by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. What is linguistics? Linguistics is the scientific study of language and its structure, including the study of grammar, syntax, and phonetics. Specific branches of linguistics include sociolinguistics, dialectology, psycholinguistics, computational linguistics, comparative linguistics, and structural linguistics. What is monologue? Monologue is a long speech in a story, play, or film given by one character, especially when alone. Soliloquies, apostrophes, and asides are almost similar to monologue. What is metaphor? Metaphor is an expression or a phrase that describes a person or object by referring to something which has similar qualities. For example, she has a heart of stone. In this sentence, her heart has been described as a stone. He was a cheetah in the race today. He is the black sheep of the family. She is an early bird. What is simile? Simile is a phrase or an expression that compares one thing with another, using the words like or as. For example, like a hungry wolf, he ate the food. He fought like a lion. He is as busy as a bee, etc. The difference between metaphor and simile is, metaphor refers to something without using like or as, but simile compares something with using the words like or as. What is motif? Motif is a design, idea, or a phrase that appears frequently in a story, play, poetry, or film. Motif can be an object, image, sound, idea, or word. It often comes up again and again at the important moments in a work. If you notice the same object, phrase, or symbol multiple times throughout the story, it's probably a motif. What is miracle play, mystery play, and morality play? Miracle plays, mystery plays, and morality plays are three types of late medieval drama, mostly religious in nature. What is miracle play? Miracle play, also known as saints' play, denotes the dramas based on saints' lives and their miracles in the medieval period. What is mystery play? Mystery plays, also known as Bible story, tells the stories from the Bible, such as the creation, Adam and Eve, the murder of Abel, and the Last Judgment, etc. What is morality play? Morality plays are a type of medieval drama, used allegorical characters to tell the story of human life and ultimate journey to the afterlife. Example, Every Man is a famous morality play of the medieval period. What is an ode? Ode is a lyric poem that is written in praise of a particular person, thing, or event. For example, Keats' Ode to a Nightingale, P.B. Shelley's Ode to the West Wind, ओड एक तरह के कविता है जो किसी व्यक्ति या वस्तु के प्रशंसा या फिर कोई घटना को उपदेश करके लिखा जाता है। There are three types of ode: Pindaric ode, Horatian ode, and irregular ode. Pindaric ode follows the form and style of Pindar. Horatian odes follow conventions of Horace, and irregular odes use rhyme. If a poem is not Horatian or Pindaric, it is irregular. Abraham Cowley introduced irregular ode. Some of the most famous odes in English are irregular, such as Ode to a Grecian Urn by John Keats. What is onomatopoeia? Onomatopoeia is the use or creation of a word that phonetically imitates, resembles, or suggests the sound that it describes. किसी चीज या कोई जीव या जानवर के साउंड को वर्ड में कन्वर्ट किया जाता है तो उसे onomatopoeia कहते हैं. For example, the word tick-tick is an onomatopoeia, the sound that a clock makes. What is oxymoron? Oxymoron occurs when two opposite or contradictory words appears nearby, often in a sentence or a phrase. For example, O brawling love, O loving hate, O anything of nothing first create. In these lines, the word love, hate, anything, nothing are opposite from each other and has been put nearby. What is paradox? Paradox is a statement that contains two opposite or contradictory ideas. Although it seems impossible, it may be true. For example, I must be cruel to be kind. In the sentence, I must be cruel and to be kind are two ideas that contradict each other. The difference between paradox and oxymoron is, an oxymoron usually consists of two opposite words, but a paradox consists of two opposite statements or ideas. What is an opera? Opera is a dramatic work or stage performance in which music is a fundamental component and dramatic roles are taken by singers. Opera एक dramatic work या एक stage performance है जहाँ singers singing के साथ साथ अभिनय भी करते हैं. आमतौर पर ऑर्केस्ट्रा के जरिए ऑपरा को परफॉर्म किया जाता है. Opera originated in Italy at the end of the 16th century. Jacopo Peri's Daphne, which is considered the first opera. Claudio Monteverdi's El Orfeo is still regularly performed. The words librettist and libretto are associated with opera. What is plot? Plot is the series or sequence of events that make the story of a novel, play, film, or other work. Most of the time, plot follows a developmental pattern known as Freytag's pyramid, which starts with exposition, then rising action, then climax, the falling action, and finally, the resolution. Plot is the foundational element of a story. Aristotle called plot as the most important of the tragedy, and considered it as the soul of a tragedy. What is parable? Parable is a short story that teaches a moral or spiritual lesson, especially one of those told by Jesus as recorded in the Bible. For example, parable of the prodigal son. What is parody? Parody is a piece of writing, drama, or music that imitates the style of someone or something in an amusing way. For example, in 2009, writer Sade Graham Smith published a parody of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice untitled Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. What is prologue? Prologue is a preface or introduction to a literary work. It's the opening lines of a play or film in which the narrator provides background details of the work. The prologue is usually pretty short, maybe a few pages or few lines. But it may be the most important section of a story. What is pentameter? Pentameter is a line of free verse in poetry containing 5 metrical feet. The line consists of 10 syllables. For example, when I do count the clock that tells the time. What is iambic pentameter? Iambic pentameter is a line in poetry which contains 5 metrical feet and follows the pattern of unstressed syllable followed by stressed syllable. Lines in iambic pentameter usually contain 10 syllables. For example, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? In this line, bold color letters are stressed syllable and remaining are unstressed syllable. Iambic pentameter was first introduced into English by Geoffrey Chaucer in the 14th century. What is plagiarism? Plagiarism is the act of using or copying one's language, words, or ideas without mentioning the original writer and represent it as one's own work. जब कोई व्यक्ति दूसरे व्यक्ति के राइटिंग्स को कॉपी करके कुछ बनाता है और कहता है कि ये उसने खुद बनाया है और असली राइटर का जिक्र भी नहीं करते, तब इसे कहते हैं प्लाजरिज्म. What is parallelism? Parallelism is the repetition of words or phrases in a sentence with same grammatical structure. For example, I came, I saw, I conquered, line by Julius Caesar. In this sentence, each phrase begins with I and has same grammatical structure, subject plus verb. What is pastoral poetry or novel? The word pastoral comes from the Latin word pastor, which means shepherd or herdsman. Pastoral poetry or novel refers to works of literature that idealize shepherd's lifestyle and focuses humanity and nature in a rural environment. Pastoral poetry या novel में shepherds के lifestyle को आदर्श बनाया जाता है और rural environment के ऊपर focus किया जाता है. For example, The Shepherd's Calendar by Edmund Spenser. The Passionate Shepherd to His Love by Christopher Marlowe. What is personification? Personification, synonym is pathetic fallacy. Personification is a type of figurative language used to describe non-human beings, such as objects, animals, as having human characteristics. For example, in the poem, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, by Wordsworth, objects and animals are shown as having human feelings. When, all at once, I saw a crowd, a host, of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. What is picaresque novel? Picaresque novel is a type of adventure fiction which focuses on a rogue character who travels from place to place. Rogue character matlab dusht charitra. The protagonist, or picaro, is usually from a lower class and may act immorally. Picaresque novel originated in Spain in 1554 with the work Lazarillo de Toms. The first picaresque novel in England was The Unfortunate Traveller or The Life of Jack Wilton by Thomas Nashe. What is poetic justice? Poetic justice is an ideal form of justice in a literary work where good characters are rewarded and bad characters are punished. अगर कोई ड्रामा में कैरेक्टर्स के कर्म के हिसाब से फल मिलता है तो उसे पोएटिक जस्टिस कहते हैं. For example, in Shakespeare's King Lear, we see the evil characters Goneril, Regan, Oswald, and Edmund are punished, and the good characters Lear, Gloucester, Kent, Cordelia, and Edgar are rewarded at the end. The term poetic justice was coined by Thomas Rhymer in his The Tragedies of the Last Age Conceded. What is postmodernism? Postmodernism is a style and movement in art, architecture, and literature in the late 20th century. Postmodernism 20th century के एक आंदोलन है जो मॉडर्न स्टाइल के खिलाफ है और इसे आर्ट, आर्किटेक्चर और लिटरेचर के जरिए किया गया है. Postmodern philosophers include Michael Foucault, Jean Baudrillard, Jacques Derrida, and Richard Rorty. What is peripecia? Peripecia is a sudden reversal. Reversal matlab parivartan, a sudden change in a dramatic situation. It's also known as the turning point. Aristotle defined peripecia as reversal of a situation. This reversal usually reverses the fortune of a protagonist from good to bad. For example, in Oedipus Rex, Oedipus realizes that he has unknowingly killed his father and married his mother. What is Renaissance? Renaissance is a French word meaning rebirth. It's the revival of art and literature under the influence of classical models in the 14th to 16th centuries. The Renaissance began in Florence, Italy. After Italy, Hungary was the first European country where Renaissance appeared. What is revenge tragedy? Revenge tragedy, also known as the tragedy of blood, flourished in the late Elizabethan and Jacobean period. In this tragedy, the protagonist is directed by a ghost of his murdered family member or beloved to take revenge on the murderer. Thomas Kyd's The Spanish Tragedy, 1587 and William Shakespeare's Hamlet, Othello and Titus Andronicus are best examples of revenge tragedy. What is Romanticism? Romanticism is a style and movement in art, music, and literature, originated in Europe towards the end of the 18th century. In this movement, strong feelings, imagination, and a return to nature were more important than reason, order, and intellectual ideas. Major Romantic poets include William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge, John Keats, Lord Byron, P.B. Shelley, and William Blake. What is rhetoric? Rhetoric is the art, or language of persuasion or influence by speaking or writing. Aristotle defined rhetoric as an art of persuasion by any means available. Aristotle also identified three persuasive audience appeals: logos, pathos, and ethos. Logos means logic or reason. Pathos means emotion, and ethos means character. Rhetoric एक तरह के कला या फिर एक लैंग्वेज है जो किसी व्यक्ति या लोगों को कन्विंस करने, राजी करने, इन्फ्लुएंस करने या फिर विश्वास दिलाने के लिए इस्तेमाल करते हैं. For example, the speech of a politician, advertisements, or any other persuasive speech. Rhetoric used to persuade, convince, influence, entertain, impress, or motivate the audience or reader. What is sonnet? Sonnet is a kind of poem, usually 14 lines poem. Each line contains 10 syllables and has a fixed pattern of rhyme. The main three types of sonnet are Italian or Petrarchan sonnet, English or Shakespearean sonnet, and Spenserian sonnet. The rhyme scheme of Italian or Petrarchan sonnet is A, B, B, A, B, B, A, C, D, E, C, D, E. The rhyme scheme of Shakespearean or English sonnet is A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, G, G. The rhyme scheme of Spenserian sonnet is A, B, B, C, C, D, C, D, E. What is satire? Satire मतलब criticize करना, उपहास करना, या फिर व्यंग्य करना. Satire is the use of different elements, such as irony, sarcasm, humor, to criticize or mock the foolish behavior of others. There are three main types of satire: Horatian satire, Juvenalian satire, and Menippean satire. Horatian satire is clever and humorous, and generally mocks others. Horatian satire is not negative. It aims to make fun of human behavior in a comic way. For example, Jonathan Swift's novel, Gulliver's Travels, Jane Austen's novel, Pride and Prejudice. What is soliloquy? Soliloquy is a speech in a play in which a character who is alone on the stage speaks his or her thoughts aloud with the audience. For example, Hamlet's famous soliloquy, to be or not to be. The difference between soliloquy and monologue: the information contained in a soliloquy is shared only with the audience, but a monologue can be heard by all the characters in a scene as well as the audience. What is semantics? Semantics is the study of the meanings of words and phrases. The three major types of semantics are formal, lexical, and conceptual semantics. What is stream of consciousness? Stream of consciousness is a phrase used by William James in his Principles of Psychology. The primary purpose of stream of consciousness writing is to bring the reader closer to the character's mind and thoughts. For example, Mrs. Dalloway, by Virginia Woolf. What is transcendentalism? Transcendentalism is an American literary, political, and philosophical movement of the early 19th century. It is closely related to Unitarianism. Major transcendentalists are Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Margaret Fuller, Amos Bronson Alcott, Frederick Henry Hedge, Theodore Parker, and Walt Whitman. Transcendentalism emerged from English and German Romanticism, from the philosophy of Immanuel Kant, and strongly influenced by Hindu texts, especially Upanishads. Transcendentalism was first introduced in Britain by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. What is tragedy? Aristotle defined tragedy, in his Poetics, as an imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude, through pity and fear affecting the proper purgation of these emotions. Aeschylus, the Parcæans, is recognized to be the earliest extant Greek tragedy. Gorboduc is the first tragedy, written by Sackville and Norton. In Greek, tragedy means a goat song. It got this name because of the sacrifice of a goat. There are different types of tragedy, such as Greek tragedy, Roman tragedy, Elizabethan tragedy, heroic or restoration tragedy, etc. What is wit? Wit is the ability to say or write things that are clever, humorous, and typically funny. Someone witty means a person who is skilled at making clever and funny remarks. Forms of wit include the quip, repartee, and wisecrack. What is verbal irony? Verbal irony occurs when someone says something or writes something and means another, usually the opposite of what a person speaks or writes. For example, the title of the poem, The Unknown Citizen, by W. H. Auden, the title employs verbal irony, as the poet describes a person whom everyone knows, yet he is still unknown. There are different types of verbal irony, such as sarcasm, understatement, overstatement, or exaggeration. What is situational irony? Situational irony occurs when something unexpected happens. For example, in Romeo and Juliet, by William Shakespeare, people were expecting that the two lovers would reunite, but the unexpected things happen. The two lovers killed themselves. What is sarcasm? Sarcasm is a type of verbal irony that expresses contempt, mocks, or ridicules. It's when a person says one thing but means another in order to ridicule or mock.